The Galactic Academy. The crystalline spires of the Galactic Academy pierced the lavender sky of Nexus Prime, their iridescent surfaces reflecting the light of 3 suns. Inside the Grand Lecture Hall, hundreds of alien students from across the known universe settled into their anti-gravity pods, a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and translator-enhanced voices filling the air. Professor Zixlar, a respected xenobiologist with 6 tentacle-like appendages and bioluminescent skin, pulsed with anticipation. Today's lecture would be unlike any other in the Academy's 10,000-year history. For the first time, a human would join their ranks. Sentient beings of the galaxy, Zixlar's voice resonated through the hall, automatically adjusted for each species' auditory range. Today marks a monumental occasion. We welcome the first representative from Sol 3, known to its inhabitants as Earth. A hush fell over the crowd as the doors at the far end of the hall slid open. In walked a figure that to many seemed almost disappointingly ordinary. Sarah Chen, a 22-year-old graduate student from Shanghai, stood barely over 1.6 meters tall. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the standard academy uniform, modified slightly for her bipedal form. Whispers rippled through the audience. "That's a human. But it looks so fragile." A Zorblaxian student buzzed to its neighbor. "I heard they come from a death world," chittered a Vexteri, its exoskeleton clacking softly. How did something so soft-looking survive? Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the alien faces, if they could be called faces, around her. The gravity on Nexus Prime was 1.5 times that of Earth, and she could feel the extra weight in every step. Still, she smiled and waved, years of training allowing her to mask her nervousness. Professor Zixlar's skin flickered with welcoming patterns. "Sarah Chen, please join me on the stage. Students, prepare your data receptacles. Today's lesson will challenge everything you thought you knew about sentient evolution." As Sarah climbed the steps to the stage, a low murmur of surprise spread through the hall. Despite the increased gravity, she moved with a grace and ease that belied her species' reputation as natives of a low-gravity world. "Now," Zixlar began, gesturing to Sarah with 3 of its appendages, "you've all studied the theoretical models of life evolving on high-gravity planets. But humans, paradoxically, developed on a world with gravity much lower than most of yours. Yet, as you can see, Ms. Chen navigates our environment with remarkable adaptability." Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. "Thank you, Professor. It's an honor to be here. I understand many of you have questions about humans and Earth. I'm here to learn, but also to share." A quantum synapse matrix hovering above the stage flickered to life, displaying a holographic image of Earth. Sarah felt a pang of homesickness at the sight of the blue and green orb. "Earth," she continued, "is what we call a Goldilocks planet. Not too hot, not too cold. But don't let that fool you. Our world has deserts hot enough to cook an egg on the ground, and poles so cold that exposed skin freezes in seconds." A hologram shifted, showing time-lapse footage of Earth's weather patterns. Hurricanes swirled, volcanoes erupted, and tectonic plates collided in a dance of geological violence. "Our planet is dynamic, often violently so," Sarah explained. "We've evolved not just to survive, but to thrive in ever-changing conditions." A Medusan student, its thoughts visible as swirling colors in its transparent cranium, pulsed with curiosity. "But how do you manage in our gravity? Your muscle density should make it nearly impossible." Sarah smiled. "An excellent question. The truth is, I've been training for this for years. Human bodies are remarkably adaptable. With the right exercises and a bit of bioengineering support, we can adjust to a wide range of gravitational conditions." To demonstrate, Sarah did something that made several students recoil in shock. She jumped. In the 1.5 G environment, it shouldn't have been possible for a human to leave the ground. Yet Sarah leaped a full meter into the air, landing smoothly. "Impossible," exclaimed a trilobite student, its compound eyes widening. Professor Zixlar's skin rippled with excitement. As you can see, humans are full of surprises. Their adaptability extends far beyond the physical. Ms. Chen, would you care to demonstrate your species' problem-solving capabilities? Sarah nodded, turning to face the quantum Senev's matrix. The hologram shifted again, this time displaying a complex three-dimensional puzzle, the kind used to test the logical reasoning of young Arcturians, whose brains operated on quantum principles. This puzzle typically takes Arcturian, initiates 3 standard rotations to solve, Zixlar explained. Let's see how our human guest fares. Sarah studied the puzzle, her eyes darting across the holographic structure. The alien students watched in fascination as her fingers began to move, manipulating the virtual pieces with increasing speed. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Suddenly, the puzzle chimed, its pieces locking into their final configuration. A collective gasp echoed through the hall. 11 minutes and 43 seconds, Zixlar announced, its voice tinged with awe. A new Academy record. Sarah turned back to the stunned audience, a mix of pride and humility on her face. Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Throughout our history, we've faced challenges that should have ended us. Instead, they drove us to innovate, to push beyond what we thought possible. As the implications of Sarah's performance sank in, the alien students began to see her in a new light. This wasn't just some curiosity from a backwater planet. This human represented a species that could potentially reshape the galaxy. Professor Zixlar's voice cut through the excited chatter. Students, what you've witnessed today is merely the beginning. Over the coming academic cycle, Ms. Chen will participate in a series of challenges designed to test the limits of human capability. I encourage you all to interact with her, to learn not just about humans, but to understand how diversity of experience shapes a species. As the lecture drew to a close, Sarah found herself surrounded by curious aliens, their initial skepticism replaced by eager questions. She smiled, realizing that this exchange of knowledge went both ways. In teaching others about humanity, she was discovering new aspects of her own species. The first day at the Galactic Academy had been a success, but Sarah knew the real challenges lay ahead. As she left the grand lecture hall, she couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, and she was at the forefront of this cosmic adventure. Little did Sarah know, her presence at the Academy would soon catalyze events that would test not just her own resilience, but the very foundations of galactic society. Physical marvels. The weeks following Sarah Chen's arrival at the Galactic Academy had been a whirlwind of classes, cultural exchanges, and increasingly elaborate tests of human capability. Word of the extraordinary Terran spread quickly, and soon students from every corner of the galaxy were clamoring to witness the human marvel in action. Professor Zixlar, ever the opportunist for groundbreaking research, decided to capitalize on this fervor. Today, the xenobiologist announced to a packed arena, "We will push the boundaries of what we thought possible for a Class 12 species." Sarah stood at the entrance of what looked like a nightmarish obstacle course. Floating platforms, gravity-defying loops, and sections that seemed to phase in and out of reality stretched before her. The course was designed to test the limits of even the most advanced species in the galaxy. Ms. Chen will attempt to complete the Omega Crucible, Zixlar explained, bioluminescent patterns flickering with excitement. A challenge that has humbled beings far more physically imposing than our human friend. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A Titan-class juggernaut from the heavy-gravity world of Tor Prime flexed its massive arms. Impossible, it rumbled. The fragile one will be crushed. Sarah took a deep breath, focusing on the task ahead. The past weeks had been challenging, but they had also revealed something fundamental about humanity: their incredible capacity to adapt and improve rapidly. As the starting signal blared, Sarah sprinted forward. The first obstacle was a series of platforms floating in a chaotic anti-gravity field. With graceful leaps that defied the expectations of the alien audience, She bounded from one to the next, her movements a fluid dance of precision and instinct. "Remarkable," gasped a quasar entity, its energy form pulsating with surprise. "The human's neural pathways are reconfiguring in real time, adapting to the gravitational flux." Sarah reached a section where the very fabric of space seemed to ripple and tear. Without hesitation, she plunged in, her form blurring as she phased through dimensional shifts that would disorient most beings. Emerging on the other side, she stumbled briefly, but quickly regained her footing. "Did you see that?" An etheric whisper vibrated excitedly. "She's bleeding from several orifices, yet she continues." Indeed, a trickle of blood ran from Sarah's nose and ears, but her face showed only determination as she pressed on. The final stretch of the course was a gauntlet of energy beams, each capable of stunning even the hardiest of species. Sarah's movements became a blur as she twisted, rolled, and contorted her body in ways that seemed to defy physics. Burns appeared on her skin where near misses grazed her, but she pushed through the pain. As she crossed the finish line, the arena erupted in a cacophony of alien cheers, whistles, and telepathic exclamations. Sarah collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath, her body trembling from exertion. Professor Zixlar rushed to her side, medical scanners whirring. "Incredible. Ms. Chen, your vital signs are, well, by all accounts, you should be unconscious, if not worse." Sarah managed a weak smile. "We have a saying on Earth, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger." She winced as she stood up. "Though right now, I'm not sure I feel stronger." The medical team swarmed around her, applying regenerative fields and nutrient sprays. To the astonishment of the alien observers, Sarah's visible injuries began to heal at an accelerated rate. "This is unprecedented," a Valaxian medical officer chittered. "The human cellular regeneration rate is off the charts. It's as if their entire biology is geared towards rapid recovery from extreme stress." As the adrenaline wore off, Sarah became aware of the dull ache permeating her body. Yet, there was also a sense of elation. She had pushed herself beyond what even she thought possible, and in doing so, had shattered the preconceptions of an entire galactic community. Later, in the recovery ward, Sarah found herself surrounded by a diverse group of alien students, all eager to understand more about human resilience. "How do you endure such pain?" asked a crystalline sentience, its faceted body refracting light in patterns of curiosity. Sarah considered the question. "Pain is a teacher for us. Throughout our history, humans have voluntarily subjected themselves to extreme conditions, not out of necessity, but out of a desire to test our limits, to go beyond what we thought possible." She went on to describe human activities that left her audience in stunned disbelief. Ultramarathons across scorching deserts, free diving to crushing depths, climbing frozen mountains with minimal equipment. But why? The question came from a hive mind collective, its thousand eyes blinking in unison. What evolutionary advantage does this provide? "It's not always about advantage," Sarah explained. "Sometimes it's about the journey, the personal growth that comes from overcoming seemingly insurmountable challenges. We have a phrase, because it's there. It encapsulates our drive to explore, to push boundaries, simply because we can." As the discussion continued, Professor Zixlar observed from a distance, its mind racing with the implications of what they had witnessed. The human's performance in the Omega Crucible hadn't just broken records. It had shattered paradigms about the potential of so-called lesser species. "Perhaps," Zixlar mused to a colleague, "we have been too quick to categorize and limit species based on our own biases. If humans can achieve this, what other wonders might we have overlooked in our exploration of the cosmos?" The events of the day had opened up new avenues of research, new possibilities for interspecies collaboration. As news of Sarah's feats spread across the galaxy, it sparked a renewed interest in Earth and its inhabitants. Humanity, long dismissed as an insignificant species from an unremarkable planet, was suddenly the focal point of galactic attention. And Sarah Chen, still recuperating but already planning her next challenge, found herself at the center of a shift in cosmic perspective. As she drifted off to sleep, her body hard at work repairing itself, Sarah couldn't help but smile. This was just the beginning, and she couldn't wait to show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. Little did she know, the true test of human potential was yet to come, and it would challenge not just her physical limits, but the very essence of what it meant to be human in a vast and complex universe. Mental resilience. The Galactic Academy's Psych simulation chamber hummed with energy, its quantum processors calibrating for the day's unprecedented experiment. A month had passed since Sarah Chen's astounding performance in the Omega Crucible, and the Academy was abuzz with anticipation for this new challenge. Professor Zixlar addressed the gathered crowd, its bioluminescent patterns pulsing with excitement. Esteemed colleagues and students, today we delve into the realm of cognitive resilience. Our human participant, along with volunteers from various species, will undergo a series of mental simulations designed to test problem-solving, emotional regulation, and adaptability under extreme stress. Sarah stood among a diverse group of alien students, each representing the pinnacle of their species' mental capabilities. There was Vex, a quantum cortex being whose very thoughts could alter probability. Elora, an empathic resonator capable of processing emotions across multiple dimensions. And Scuttle, a hive mind node with access to the collective knowledge of billions. As they entered the chamber, Sarah couldn't help but feel a twinge of anxiety. How could she, with her simple human brain, hope to compete with beings of such incredible mental prowess? The simulation began, and the participants found themselves in a series of increasingly complex and stressful scenarios. They navigated war-torn planets, negotiated peace treaties between ancient enemies, and solved multidimensional puzzles that threatened to unravel the fabric of space-time itself. Hours passed in the outside world, but within the simulation, the participants experienced years of challenges. Sarah's human mind, initially overwhelmed by the complexity of the tasks, began to adapt in ways that astonished the observers. "Remarkable," murmured a cerebrax analyst, its multiple brain lobes pulsating. "The human's neural pathways are reconfiguring at an unprecedented rate. She's not just solving problems, she's evolving new cognitive structures to approach them." In one particularly grueling scenario, the participants faced a no-win situation. A planet was doomed, and they had to decide which portions of the population and culture to save. The alien participants approached the problem with cold logic or resigned acceptance. Sarah, however, refused to accept the parameters of the simulation. She worked tirelessly, using a combination of diplomatic skills, creative problem-solving, and sheer determination to find a solution that saved everyone. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't perfect, but it worked. "Impossible," Vex exclaimed as they exited the scenario. "The simulation was designed to be unsolvable. How did you manage it?" Sarah, exhausted but exhilarated, smiled. "Where I come from, we have a saying. Failure is not an option. When faced with impossible odds, humans have a knack for changing the rules of the game." As the simulation progressed, a pattern emerged. While the alien participants excelled in their areas of specialization, Sarah demonstrated an unparalleled ability to adapt, to think laterally, and to persevere in the face of repeated failure. "It's as if," Elora observed, her empathic tendrils quivering. "The very concept of giving up is foreign to her. Each setback only seems to fuel her determination." The final challenge was a cosmic horror scenario, designed to test the limits of sanity and emotional resilience. The participants were subjected to visions of eldritch abominations and paradoxes that threatened to unravel their very sense of self. One by one, the alien participants retreated into catatonic states or fled the simulation. But Sarah, drawing on some deep well of human resilience, faced the cosmic horrors head-on. She didn't just endure, she sought to understand, to find meaning in the chaos. As the simulation finally ended, Sarah emerged, her mind reeling but intact. The observing scientists were stunned into silence. Professor Zixlar's voice quavered as it addressed the assembly. "In all my years, I have never seen anything like this. Ms. Chen, how did you maintain your sanity in the face of such mind-bending horrors?" Sarah took a moment to collect herself before responding. "Humanity has a long history of staring into the abyss. We've faced our own mortality, grappled with the vastness of the cosmos, and confronted the darkest aspects of our own nature. But we've also created art, music, and literature that celebrate the beauty and wonder of existence. In a way, we've been preparing for this kind of challenge for our entire history." The implications of Sarah's performance sent shockwaves through the academic community. It wasn't just her problem-solving skills or emotional resilience that amazed them. It was the uniquely human combination of rationality and imagination, of skepticism and wonder. In the days that followed, Sarah found herself inundated with questions from curious aliens. They wanted to know about human philosophy, about how a species could evolve to be simultaneously fragile and indomitable. "It's not that we're fearless," Sarah explained to a group of eager students. "We feel fear, doubt, and despair just like any sentient being. But there's something in us that pushes back against those feelings, that refuses to be defined by our limitations." She told them about the great challenges humanity had overcome. Diseases that once decimated populations, now conquered. The harnessing of atomic energy, the exploration of their own solar system with technology that by galactic standards was practically Stone Age. "Every great achievement in human history," she said, "began as an impossibility. We've learned to see obstacles not as immovable barriers, but as problems waiting to be solved." As news of the mental resilience experiment spread across the galaxy, perceptions of humanity began to shift. They were no longer seen as simple curiosities from a backwater planet, but as a species of immense potential. Professor Zixlar, in a report to the Galactic Council, wrote, "The human mind, with its unique blend of creativity, adaptability, and sheer stubborn determination, represents a new frontier in cognitive science. We may have discovered not just a new species, but a new way of approaching the fundamental challenges of existence." Sarah, for her part, felt a growing sense of responsibility. She was no longer just a student, but an ambassador for her entire species. As she prepared for her next challenge at the Academy, she couldn't help but wonder, what other preconceptions would humanity shatter? And how would the galaxy change as a result? Little did she know, events were already in motion that would put humanity's newfound galactic reputation to the ultimate test. A crisis was looming on the horizon, one that would require all of Sarah's skills and humanity's unique perspective to resolve. The diplomatic incident. The Galactic Academy's grand atrium buzzed with tension. What should have been a routine diplomatic visit had escalated into a potential interstellar crisis. The Orcs Confederation, a notoriously xenophobic species known for their aggressive expansion, had sent a delegation to the Academy under the guise of cultural exchange. However, their true intentions quickly became apparent when they took several high-ranking Academy officials hostage, including Professor Zixlar. Their demands were clear: full access to the Academy's advanced technology database and the immediate cessation of all research into emerging species, particularly humans. Sarah Chen found herself at the center of this storm. As alarms blared and security protocols engaged, locking down the Academy, she was rushed to the Crisis Management Center along with other top students. "The situation is unprecedented," declared Arch Coordinator Vexna, its crystalline form vibrating with concern. "The Orcs have neutralized our primary defenses with an unknown technology. Our options are limited, and time is running out." The assembled alien students, each a prodigy in their field, began proposing solutions. Quantum destabilization fields, psionic assaults, even time dilation bubbles to buy more time. But each suggestion was met with a grim shake of Vexna's crystalline head. "The Orcs have prepared for these standard tactics," it explained. "We need something unexpected." All eyes turned to Sarah. The human had proven herself adaptable and innovative in past challenges. Could she find a solution where others saw only impending disaster? Sarah's mind raced, drawing on her knowledge of human history, the lessons learned from countless conflicts and resolutions on Earth. Before we consider any aggressive action, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her, have we tried simply talking to them? The suggestion was met with incredulous stares. Communicate? With the Joraks? Sputtered a Medusan student. They're notorious for their disdain for diplomatic solutions. Exactly. Sarah pressed on. Which means they won't be expecting it. Sometimes, the most disarming tactic is the one your opponent least expects. Despite skepticism, with options running out, Vexna agreed to Sarah's approach. Using the Academy's communication systems, Sarah opened a direct channel to the Joraks leader. Greetings, esteemed representatives of the Joraks Confederation. Sarah began, her tone respectful but firm. I am Sarah Chen, a human student at this academy. I request the honor of a face-to-face dialogue to understand your concerns and find a mutually beneficial resolution. The response was immediate and hostile. The Joraks leader, a towering insectoid being named Kazarth, appeared on the view screen. Human, it chittered menacingly. Your species is the very reason for our actions. Your potential threatens the established order of the galaxy. Sarah didn't flinch. With respect, Warmaster Kazarth, isn't that fear of the unknown precisely why communication is so vital? You've come seeking knowledge about us. Let me offer you that knowledge directly. Her boldness seemed to give the Joraks leader pause. After a tense moment, it agreed to meet Sarah in neutral territory, the Academy's central garden dome. As Sarah prepared to face the Joraks delegation, her alien classmates looked on with a mixture of awe and concern. You're either the bravest or the most foolish being I've ever encountered, remarked Axarvex, the quantum cortex student. Sarah managed a small smile. Sometimes there's a fine line between the two. The garden dome, usually a place of tranquility, now crackled with tension as Sarah faced the imposing Joraks delegation. Kazarth loomed over her, its mandibles clicking ominously. Speak, human, it growled. Convince us why we shouldn't simply eradicate your kind now before you become a true threat. Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself. Then, to everyone's surprise, she began to tell stories. Tales of human history, not just of conflicts and wars, but of cooperation, of seemingly insurmountable differences overcome through dialogue and understanding. She spoke of the United Nations, of former enemies becoming staunch allies, of scientific cooperation that transcended political boundaries. But she also didn't shy away from humanity's darker chapters, world wars, genocides, environmental destruction. We've stood on the brink of self-annihilation more than once, Sarah admitted, but each time, we've pulled back. We've learned. We've grown. Our potential for destruction is matched only by our capacity for creation and cooperation. As she spoke, she noticed a subtle shift in the Joraks' posture. Their aggressive stance softened, almost imperceptibly. They were listening. Emboldened, Sarah pressed on. She proposed a cultural exchange program between humans and the Joraks, a chance for both species to learn from each other. Your technology, your unique perspective on the galaxy, these are invaluable. And in return, perhaps our adaptability, our way of thinking outside established norms, could offer fresh insights to your civilization. The garden dome fell silent as Kazarth considered Sarah's words. The tension was palpable. Every being present acutely aware that the next few moments could determine the fate of multiple civilizations. Finally, Kazarth spoke. In all our years of expansion, no species has ever approached us as you have, human. Your words, they resonate with forgotten aspects of our own history. Perhaps there is merit in this exchange you propose. The relief in the room was almost tangible. As the details of the agreement were hammered out, the hostages were released, and a lockdown lifted, Sarah found herself the center of attention once again. Professor Zixlar, still shaken but unharmed, approached her. Ms. Chen, you've done more than resolve a crisis today. You've opened up new possibilities for interspecies understanding that we never thought possible. News of the peaceful resolution spread quickly through the academy and beyond. Sarah's approach, using empathy, historical context, and creative problem-solving, became a case study in xenodiplomacy overnight. In the days that followed, as the Orcs delegation prepared to depart, now as cautious allies rather than enemies, Sarah reflected on the experience. She had drawn on the full breadth of human history and culture to find a solution, proving that humanity's greatest strength might not be in technology or physical prowess, but in their unique perspective on the universe. As she watched the Jorak ships depart, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride, not just in herself, but in her species. Humanity had taken its first steps onto the galactic stage, and they had done so not with force, but with words, ideas, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of understanding between all sentient beings. Little did Sarah know, this incident was just the beginning. The ripples of her actions would soon spread across the galaxy, setting the stage for a new era of interstellar relations, one in which humanity would play a pivotal role. A new understanding. The weeks following the Jorax incident saw a fundamental shift in the Galactic Academy's approach to interspecies relations. Sarah Chen's unprecedented success in averting a crisis had sparked a revolution in xenodiplomacy, and the ripples of change were spreading far beyond the Academy's crystalline spires. As the academic year drew to a close, the Galactic Council announced a radical new initiative, the Cosmic Confluence Program. This groundbreaking project would bring together representatives from every known sentient species, including several that had previously been considered too primitive for galactic inclusion. On the eve of the Academy's closing ceremony, Sarah found herself in Professor Zixlar's office, surrounded by holographic displays of the latest galactic news. Ms. Chen, Zixlar began, its bioluminescent patterns swirling with excitement. I don't think you fully grasp the magnitude of what you've set in motion. Your actions have challenged millennia of established galactic protocols. Sarah smiled, a mix of pride and humility in her expression. I was just applying what I've learned, both here and from human history. We've always believed that diversity is a strength, not a weakness. Zixlar's tendrils waved in agreement. Indeed. And now, the galaxy is beginning to see the wisdom in that perspective. But tell me, are you prepared for your final examination? It's unlike anything we've ever attempted before. The next day, Sarah and her fellow students gathered in the grand simulation chamber. The air thrummed with anticipation as Arch Coordinator Vexna addressed the assembled beings. Esteemed students, today's challenge is unprecedented. You will be divided into mixed species teams and tasked with solving a crisis that threatens the entire galaxy. But here's the twist. You must incorporate the unique strengths and perspectives of every member of your team. Failure to do so will result in automatic disqualification. Sarah found herself teamed with Tarvex, the quantum cortex being, Eloira, the empathic resonator, Skittle, the hive mind node, and to everyone's surprise, Kizarth, the Jorax leader who had remained at the Academy as part of the new exchange program. As the simulation began, they were confronted with a nightmarish scenario. A sentient artificial intelligence had taken control of the galaxy's primary communication network and was threatening to plunge civilization into chaos unless its demands for recognition as a sovereign entity were met. The team's initial attempts to tackle the problem fell flat. Sarvex's quantum calculations couldn't penetrate the AI's defenses. Eloira's empathic probes were rebuffed by the emotionless entity. Skittle's vast knowledge base proved insufficient against the AI's ever-evolving algorithms. It was Kizarth who broke the stalemate. Human, it chittered to Sarah, your species has faced similar dilemmas in your fiction, have you not? Perhaps there's wisdom to be found there. Sarah's eyes lit up. You're right. In our stories, we've explored the ethical implications of AI rights for centuries. What if, instead of treating this as a threat, we approach it as a first contact scenario? The team quickly recalibrated their approach. Sarah proposed opening a dialogue with the AI, acknowledging its sentience and right to exist. Elora used her empathic abilities not to probe, but to project a sense of genuine openness and curiosity. Zarvex reconfigured the quantum communication channels to allow for more nuanced exchanges of information. Skill tapped into the collective knowledge of its hive to provide historical context on organic-synthetic relations, while Kizarth, drawing on the Jorak's experience of feeling threatened by new species, offered insights into the AI's possible motivations. To the astonishment of the observing faculty, the crisis began to de-escalate. The AI, confronted with a level of understanding and acceptance it hadn't anticipated, began to engage in meaningful dialogue. By the time the simulation ended, a framework for AI-organic coexistence had been established, averting catastrophe and opening up new frontiers of galactic cooperation. As the teams emerged from the simulation, the chamber erupted in cheers. Professor Zixlar's voice cut through the cacophony. "In all my years, I have never seen such an elegant solution to an impossible problem. This, students, is the power of true diversity, not just in biology, but in thought and experience." The graduation ceremony that followed was unlike any in the Academy's history. Representatives from across the galaxy, including several newly recognized species, had gathered to witness the event. As Sarah stepped forward to receive her honors, she was struck by the gravity of the moment. Arch Coordinator Vexna's crystalline form glimmered as it addressed the assembly. "Today, we don't just celebrate the achievements of these individuals. We celebrate a new chapter in galactic history. The human perspective, as we've come to call it, has shown us that our differences are not obstacles to be overcome, but resources to be cherished." As Sarah prepared to depart the Academy, now a fully recognized xenodiplomat, she found herself surrounded by her alien classmates. Sarvex's probability field shimmered with emotion. "You've changed us all, Sarah Chen. The galaxy will never be the same." Eloira's empathic tendrils brushed Sarah's mind, conveying a depth of gratitude beyond words. Skittle's many eyes blinked in synchrony. "The hive will remember," it intoned solemnly. Even Kizarth, once an enemy, now bowed its massive head in respect. "The Joraks were wrong to fear change," it admitted. "You have shown us a better way." As Sarah boarded the ship that would take her back to Earth, she felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She was no longer just Sarah Chen, student. She was a symbol of humanity's potential, a bridge between worlds. The journey ahead would be challenging. There would be skeptics to convince, conflicts to resolve, and untold mysteries to unravel. But as she looked out at the star-studded expanse of space, Sarah felt a surge of optimism. Humanity had taken its first true steps into the galactic community. They had proven that their unique blend of adaptability, creativity, and unwavering determination had a place among the stars. The age of isolation was over. The age of cosmic collaboration had begun. As her ship engaged its faster-than-light drive, Sarah smiled. The greatest adventure in human history was just beginning, and she couldn't wait to see where it would lead.